How do I record things? Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Android Central podcast. It is Friday, May 3rd, a special Friday edition of the Android Central podcast. Does it feel any different out there to you guys? It feels weird to me. I am Phil Nickinson, your host for the podcast and editor of AndroidCentral.com. And with us, we have Jerry Hildenbrand from the site.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
And not quite as late in the evening in the UK, it's Alex Doby.
Hey, everyone.
And finally, from Seattle, on the other side of the world, Andrew Martonik.
And it's only 1 o'clock here, so I have no excuse to be tired.
Super early for you, right? So welcome to Friday. How's it feel, you guys? We're trying a different day at a different time.
Feels like Friday.
I figured a couple things. I mean, it's been a few weeks since we've had like a normal podcast, right? Because all the travel, and I figured, well, let's try to start something new. I've been getting in a bad mood lately, and I think partly because it was at night, and it's like after working 14 hours, then you have to podcast, and I mean, face it, it starts to be work, right? So let's change it up. Let's try Friday afternoon, end of the week. I got a cerveza. What else? I don't know. It's easier on my kids. It's kind of important, right? That's a good thing. So we're all happy. We're all going to have a good time. We're going to talk a little Android. Is that okay?
That's perfect.
Fantastic.
We could rewind and go back to, Thursday night if you want. I have the power to do that. Okay, fine.
You're a nerd, man. That's why we love you. You're just a nerd.
So what's been going on? Let's catch up. I got to hang out with Alex off and on all last week. That was cool.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
get to
cool
do that
in New York
enough.
for the thing which we can't talk about.
We can kind of talk about it. I mean, it's not like a huge secret what we were doing. I think it's pretty obvious we were shooting a whole bunch of video, right?
Sure, yeah.
I just can't tell you what TM13 stands for yet. I mean, I guess I could. Somebody actually guessed it, I think, in a Crackberry post. Yeah, wow. Yeah. Somebody finally got it. I mean, that was like after a week, right? Yeah, I mean, we've all kind of said we're taking the old round robin stuff that we used to do when the editors would get in a room for a month or whatever, a week, I guess not a month, and trade phones and learn about each other's platforms. But it's different now because I think we all know each other's platforms so much better. Even, I've got a Z10 here. I was playing with it again today. We're less siloed than we used to be. I think we understand we need to know Windows Phone better. We need to know BlackBerry better. So we've all been using each other's devices off and on anyway. So kind of doing that old school, hey, I'm going to use a BlackBerry for a week and then write about it, just didn't quite fit anymore. Didn't quite work. So we're doing something different. Something obviously a little more produced. And so it's going to be cool. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see how it turns out. Because we're not doing all the editing and production and stuff ourselves. So, we'll see. Still, I think we have a rough launch date. It's still going to be a little while, just because it takes time to do this stuff. But I really hope it's worth everybody's while. Hope everybody's excited about it. And, we're not reinventing the wheel here. Don't get me wrong. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. Questions? One at a time. Raise your hands.
We don't have any questions.
Yeah, we already know what it is.
All right, fine. So that's TM13, by the way. All right, well, what do you want to start with Android-wise? You want to talk a little more about the Galaxy S4?
Maybe. We could do that. Let's talk some
Kind of hard not to.
Yeah. Hey, Alex has one. I have one. Why'd you get white, Alex?
Because I used the black one in New York. Didn't really like the look of it. Because it's called, I think, Mist Black or something like that. It's not really a proper black color like the black Galaxy S3 was. It's kind of this off gray, and on the back you've got this reflective pattern, which I just thought the white looked better. And having seen it and picked it up and used it, I think I do prefer this design, this Samsung design, in the lighter color.
Yeah, I go back and forth. I think. Yeah, I like it. I tell you, so. I've been using the HTC One for like a month and a half up until now. So I've started using the Galaxy S4 full time because, for everybody, you guys will never write about the Galaxy S4. It's only the HTC One. Well, I mean, that happens every time, but no, it's Galaxy S4 time. I like it. I'm kind of getting the feeling, Alex, that people are disappointed, and I say disappointed in air quotes, because it's not some radical change from the GS3. I'm okay with that. I mean, they obviously had a successful phone with the GS3. Why would you change that up?
Yeah, that's a fair point, but I think there were improvements that people were hoping for. Right, there was stuff about the GS3 that wasn't perfect that is maybe a bit disappointing that they haven't addressed. Some things are design decisions. So the three buttons down below, the fact that there's a menu button, the fact that it is shiny plastic, and Samsung makes shiny plastic phones. But yeah, the fact that it isn't, that there are still kind of points where TouchWiz will maybe get a little bit laggy. Certain apps will take a while to load. You look at some of the other Snapdragon 600 phones that are out there, that's not the case there. So it's a bit disappointing to see that. That was the main point of my disappointment, I think, with it. But like you say, it's a good phone. It's a solid improvement on the GS3.
I think I hate TouchWiz less now. I'm still not.
Really?
I mean, fundamentally, it's the same old TouchWiz, isn't it?
Is that a good thing?
Right.
There isn't a whole, like, if you take the new features aside, like design-wise, it's still very much the same UI, isn't it?
And I'm not sure if I just hate it less because I'm accepting it, like I'm just trying it and fine. I mean, there are parts of it like the quick settings. How do I pull that down? Like the 5 million quick settings. If you can see it here on the video. I mean, that's just insane. Now, you can hide some of them, but still, your eye cannot process that much stuff, and you'll get used to it. But it's nuts. I think I am glad they went 422. And it's interesting. The more I use it, the more 422 features they took advantage of. Like today, we did the post about how to change the Life Companion little slogan on the lock screen. I mean, that's a 422 widget. Is all that is. Right, so that's relatively quickly they coded that in there. Probably not a huge feat of engineering, but interesting that they're not just using the 422 code base to say it's 422. They're actually putting features in there. What else?
422. I'm trying to think what there is feature wise. Is it just lock screen stuff?
That was kind of the big one, wasn't it, Jerry?
User facing, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff under the hood that we're, just enjoying without knowing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they moved the settings menu around, and that's fine. You can get used to that.
Wait. You're never allowed to say that's fine and TouchWiz settings in the same sentence ever again.
Why?
That's the most horrible monstrosity.
All right,
It really is, isn't it?
It went
well,
to, like, a
they made it so you're not
tab, right?
scrolling down forever.
But you're scrolling and then tapping the top. When you scroll, you can take in a lot of information quickly. When you're tapping around, you don't know which list it's in, and because there's an overflow list as well, it's not even like it's categorized particularly well.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying not to hate.
Oh, you know what? If you're only ever going to listen to other people's opinion about the S4, ignore everybody that says it feels like an absolute piece of crap or any of that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's
that's
a great
ridiculous.
phone.
Yeah.
It's TouchWiz that is causing me to not declare it the best phone ever.
That's probably a fair point, I think.
Yeah, even then, I've stopped using the HTC launcher on the One. And I've been using Action Launcher, and I haven't been a third-party launcher fan in a long time. I think what finally did it for me was I couldn't find any. And we've talked about the spacing before, how starting with Ice Cream Sandwich, you would have the Google search bar, and every OEM would have that as a widget and not just stuck up there like it's Google wants it to be. And I couldn't find any launcher that did it right, and just any third party. And so finally, I gave Action Launcher a real try. Like I'd used it when it first came out. It's different, it's weird, but what really did it for me was, let me find the phone it's on. I have too many ones here. Was you can change the alignment, so you can actually stretch it out, and it takes up all of the screen like it's supposed to, and it just looks better. A couple things that you have to get used to with it, but I think Chris Lacey's done a really good job with it, and especially the update that just came out, where you can drag apps from the quick drawer onto the home screen. I mean, that fixes setup just so it's like that now. So for me, it works. It's been really good. And I think this is probably the launcher I'm going to stick with. I'm using the stock TouchWiz launcher just to get used to it so I can talk about it. But I think Action Launcher is what I'm going to use from now on the One. You guys need to wake up. Let's go.
We're listening.
I don't have
Oh
a
my
Galaxy
gosh.
S4, so I can't talk too authoritatively about it.
Man.
I did see a guy at the coffee shop the other day was showing off to his friend that he just bought his Galaxy S4 and how fantastic it was. So there's at least one happy customer out there.
I think
It's been interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
I think a lot of people are going to be really happy with this, partly because of the familiarity factor, because a lot of people had S3s. This is a really solid update. It's new enough for it to be a real improvement for a lot of people, but familiar enough that they've got the kind of legacy that I guess companies like Apple have now. You look at HTC One, that's very much a new start. Maybe a bit scary for some people.
And let's be honest, some people came from the Galaxy S2 to this too.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you're going to get far more people. You're going to get far more people upgrading from that or from something else than you are going from the 3 to the 4, just because of the way updates work.
And that's a far more substantial update, isn't it? The S2, S2 to S4 is a big, big jump.
S2 to S3 was big, I think. Alex, you went to Central Park and talked to some normal people, what we would call smartphone civilians, right? Not people who live and breathe this stuff every day. It was really interesting to see commenter reaction to that post, especially the people who said, you should have found better people to talk to. It's like, no, wait a minute. These are normal people. This is what we wanted.
Yeah, I mean, normal people don't know as much as the people who write about phones. Right. It's just common sense, right?
And they don't care.
Yeah, they don't get. Yeah, that as well. So, I mean, I was kind of surprised having, the thing you hear about the HTC One is it feels so much better in the hand. The build quality looks a lot better. It's a very pretty phone. You would think that first impressions, a lot of people would just say, okay, go with the one that feels nicer in the hand. It's got the curved back. It's metal. It feels like more premium materials. Surprisingly, a lot of people are going with the Samsung design because it's either lighter, they like the bigger screen, it's more familiar for them. Quite a few people said that. So I think, that's what Samsung has working in its favor right now.
The speakers on the One are still a huge deal for me, I think. Watching videos absolutely. And playing games, like nothing compares to that. The S4 is loud, and a lot of people, that's their question: how loud is it? Can I hear it? And it's loud, absolutely. But it's so full on the One because it's coming right at you. It's deeper. It's
still a little sort of not a pinhole, but kind of just a normal size speaker grill thing. It's not on the back.
What do you think about? I mean, let's talk cameras because that's the other big question. I think what it comes down to for me is the S4 is a really good all-around camera. I would have no problem recommending that camera to anybody. And I need to play with some of the features on it some more. But I think the HTC One, after another week or two of using this thing, I think the HTC One is still going to win out, just because of things like Zoe's and video highlights, which for me have become really important. For sharing stuff I go to with friends and family and my kids and the things they do, and that's not to say that Samsung doesn't have really good stuff in here, because they do. And I'm madly in love with Samsung's camera app. They've always done a really good job with the camera app, but borrowing back from the Galaxy camera, I think, has made it that much better. I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer, but at the same time, it was a brilliant move. Because I think we can all agree the HTC One camera app is still kind of, it's almost like so many other HTC things where it's like all the pieces are there, but they just kind of overthought it and just should have stepped back.
Yeah, it's kind of just a big list, whereas you've got icons and actual menus that you can scroll around, and it's a lot more friendly in the Galaxy S4.
Yeah. You guys agree, Jerry, Andrew?
Yeah. I feeling the HTC camera simply because my pictures all get taken in low light. So it's working for me. But I think on the software side that, Samsung did a much better job.
Yeah, I'd say low light is decent on the S4, but there are certain conditions where, because I was playing around with this in New York last week, where you'll get a traditional sort of blurry low light smartphone shot on the S4. Yeah, switch the HTC One, it's perfectly crisp and looks fantastic. A lot of instances where that'll happen, but all around, I think the S4 makes up for it in daylight with really, really great looking shots. We should probably mention that the European HTC One actually got an update this week that changed around some of the camera stuff. I think HDR is working a bit differently now. HDR shots look a bit better, and backlight doesn't wash out quite as much. So, yeah, maybe we need to put them head to head at some point and see.
And it's important to mention that those fixes that the UK one got were already in the US versions of the HTC One. I think that got lost, and actually I didn't even notice it in the email that I got it first. But so if you have a US HTC One, this latest camera update is already in there. It has been in there since you got it.
Yep.
So
you know what? That explains why there was such a disparity of people with pictures.
yeah.
The U.S. versions were taking much better pictures. Now I get it. I didn't know that it was already in the U.S. either. So
Yeah, I didn't until like 2 days ago. I was looking back over an email list and like, oh, well, hey, that changes things. So cool. I like the S4. I like it a lot. Everyone's asking us to pick. I don't know if I'm ready to make us all pick one yet. Because I want to make sure we've all got to try it. Andrew, have you gotten to try the S4 yet? Well, and that's the other thing. I don't think you do. I mean, people.
normal people do.
The end user that makes a purchase has to pick one, obviously.
Right.
Does
and that's why they're asking us.
Those two. I mean, that doesn't have to be the case.
Segue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you been playing with this week, Andrew?
Well, I've got the Xperia ZL here, which is the unlocked European model, and I don't know. I think it's
no. That's not the European model. That's
the US one.
Yeah, that's the US one that Sony's selling here directly.
It's the unlocked US model.
Yes.
So
that's the one that'll do LTE
Everything.
on T-Mobile and AT&T.
Yes,
it's kind of a big deal.
It does HSPA 42 and LTE on AT&T and T-Mobile. But it's expensive. It's like $760 from Sony style store.
Yeah, and you broke it already.
Screen protector,
I
man.
love that Andrew managed to break this, because I spend most Sony reviews are for me. I'm so used to Sony phones that I don't even try to do what Andrew did.
Well, that's the thing. It wasn't even. Anyways, we should explain.
That was me saying.
Sony phones come with a screen protector pre-installed, but it's like an actual screen protector. It's not just a little flimsy one that's just there for shipping. It's not supposed to come off. And it actually wasn't hard for me to peel up the corner, but once you get the corner up, you realize that it's like glued on there and it's not supposed to be coming off. So the Sony logo is actually on the screen protector, not on the screen. It's not meant to be removed.
Whoops.
Yeah. Other than that, though, the phone is nice.
Hey, by the way, I forgot to mention your check's going to be a little lighter this month.
By about
I'm just kidding.
$59.
I'm just kidding.
No, maybe it's really nice. I've actually liked the Sony software way more than I thought I was going to. Everything is kind of in the same place as I'm used to on my Nexus 4, but they've just kind of flattened things out and made them nice and kind of clean and grayscale and added some more just their own touches to it. But the hardware is fantastic, and it's a 5-inch phone that's actually smaller than the Nexus 4, even though it's 5 inches, which is kind of interesting. It's easier to use in the hand than the Nexus 4, which is kind of crazy.
It's nice. I played with it for a few minutes. The big giant power button on the side is kind of weird.
It's kind of low, isn't it? It's about halfway down on the side. So
I mean, you get used to it, but it's just different.
And I end up hitting volume down, thinking it's the power button every single time. But and it takes some great pictures. I've put some on Google Plus, and I've shown Jerry a few, and it takes some really, really high quality pictures.
I agree.
I mean, we got to the point where we were no longer, we were past, those pictures are great for a phone. We were to the point where those pictures are great for pictures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like something you would take with a professional camera.
And I think Alex experienced the same when he reviewed the Z, right?
Yeah, the Xperia Z has, as I understand, it's exactly the same camera module.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the internal specs are the same as well, so it's fundamentally the same camera on that phone.
Yeah, and this one's got a hardware shutter key as well, and it's a dual detent, so you can half press to focus and all that. So if you really want to nerd out on camera, it's a great option.
Yeah, that's something I missed on the Z. They took that out for some reason.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it was a thickness thing, because this phone's a couple millimeters thicker than the Z. Actually, it's pretty chunky.
Maybe the Z is kind of blocky though. It is it's thinner, but it's the sides aren't as curved. It is very, very angular. So it's thinner, but you don't necessarily get the benefit of that.
So let me ask you guys something about thickness, because I've been thinking a lot about that the last couple of days, especially with the Galaxy S4 is super thin. The HTC One is really thin, and then I got this monster case, the Mophie case for the HTC One. Do I have both of them sitting here? Where's my other HTC One? I lost it. I lose so many phones over here; it's ridiculous. Oh, it's charging on the other side of the room. I mean, so this case, it more than doubles the thickness and adds like more than half an inch to the height of an already really tall phone. But actually, it feels like it fits in the hand very nicely. I mean, it doesn't feel uncomfortable.
A black Thunderbolt.
Well, yeah.
It really does.
I mean,
exactly.
It's probably not that much thicker than something like the Thunderbolt or what like the Evo 4G was. I mean, those were like 14, 15 millimeters.
I can't reach my Thunderbolt. Yeah, it's over there. So are we too thin again? Are the phones just thin for the sake of being thin? And I mean, then you have something like the Z10, which isn't thick by anyone's standards, but it's obviously thicker than the Galaxy S4. So I mean, should we go back to slightly thicker phones and get maybe larger batteries? Or
I think it's not just about the the number of how many millimeters thick it is, but it's about the ergonomics. I mean, if you have something like the Xperia Z or like the Nexus 4, they're not crazy thin, but when they're flat and angular, they kind of get awkward to hold. And then you have other rounded off devices that just feel a little better because they fill out the back of your hand because you can actually grip around them. You're not feeling like you're just holding the sides. So I don't know if it's necessarily just a thickness number.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that, so I'm just going to keep quiet now.
All right, then. I don't know. What else? I mean, Galaxy S4, I'm having a good time with it. I like it. I had to turn off, we did a post on how to turn off all those annoying sounds because this thing bleeps and bloops. I think more than the last one. Like, it's cute for like 5 minutes, and then you're just, stop. Please make them stop. How do I make them stop? It's bad. They're nice. They're nice sounds. They did a nice job with them. Bleep, bloop, bloop,
Yeah.
bleep, bloop.
And that's another thing about this, about TouchWiz. TouchWiz is full of features and it's kind of noisy and messy, but you can customize the hell out of it. So if there's any aspect of it that you don't like, chances are there's a setting buried somewhere that'll let you control it.
Bleep, bloop. I'm just going to do that over you for the rest of the show now. Bleep. Sorry. I tell you another alternative while we're talking alternative phones to the Galaxy S4 and the HTC One. AT&T finally announced the LG Optimus G Pro, which was kind of no surprise because LG went ahead and said, hey, here's what this event that you're going to is all about. And I mean, it had been leaked out there for so long anyway. But really nice phone, guys. I haven't gotten to play with the AT&T version yet, but I've got the Korean version somewhere. I don't know where it went either. I lose so many phones. You don't even know. Like, I'll find it in like 2 days. Where did it go? That one's been sitting in front of me for like 2 weeks. Now we do a podcast and I can't find it. Man.
You put the podcast on top of it.
Oh, I know where it is. I see it. Can't reach it either.
You got it?
No, it's really nice. It's bigger than the Galaxy S4. It's smaller than the Note 2. Not by much, but by a little bit. It's bigger display, higher resolution than the Note 2. The Note 3 obviously will have a 1080p display, right? I mean, if at least. If it doesn't, I will eat it. I will eat a Note 3 this fall if it doesn't have a 1080p display, at least.
Please.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh, there you go.
No, I mean, of course it will. But for now, really, really nice, larger phone if that's what you like to go for. Andrew Vacca's got it up in New York, and decent camera. The software is okay. It's really fast, really nice display, and it feels really good. I was surprised how much I like that phone, and I don't like big phones. I would never use a Note 2, but this, for some reason, just felt different. Do you think maybe it's just because in my mind, I know it doesn't have a stylus, and I'm not supposed to do all this pin stuff with it?
I mean,
it is a little bit. I think it's narrower than the Note 2, isn't it? And that makes a big difference when it comes to
a little bit, yeah. Not a lot, but enough.
Calm in your hand. That's why.
Right.
Going from the Note 1 to the Note 2, that was a big step up for ergonomics because they switched to a 16:9 screen, which frees up a lot of space for your hand.
Hey, Jerry, I want to circle back. Actually, I mean, The LG Optimus G Pro is so awesome, we're going to quit talking about it already. No, we'll have a review next week. I want to circle back to the Galaxy S4 for a second, because we haven't talked about the storage space thing, and that was kind of a big issue for a lot of people. Yeah. So, I mean, hey, look.
People accused me of sticking up for Samsung and the carriers, and maybe I am, but it's well. First, I guess we need to start at the beginning. If you buy a 16 gigabyte Galaxy S4, you're only going to have about 8.5 to 9 gigabytes of space that you can actually use.
And this is been the case for computers, to say nothing of smartphones, forever, right? I mean, you never get all of the storage that they list. Right. Period.
First off, it's not really 16 gigabytes because manufacturers like to think of terms of even thousands, and you really have 1,024. Anyway, it's math. There's not really 16 gigabytes there. I don't want to screw it up, so I'm not gonna finish that thought. And then you have to put the operating system somewhere. And TouchWiz, what are we at now? 5? Is this TouchWiz 5?
I think 6 or 5.5.
5.5.
Like
TouchWiz 5.5, whichever it is, takes up about 8 gigs of that space. That's just the way it is. If you want all this stuff, if you want it to be able to track your eyes and to, turn off when you look away and pause your video, that those apps have to go somewhere. The kicker is when you compare it to the Nexus 4, the Nexus 4 uses about 600 megabytes, which is, 5.5 gigabytes less space used. And, that's an issue. But, you've got an SD card, you can put your movies and your music on if you want, and, you've got 8-9 gigabytes of app space.
Right. Are people really putting 8 gigs of apps on their phone?
Well, I mean, you can do it a lot quicker than you used to.
Yeah, and games.
That could
You
be
can,
take
but
5 games.
Yeah.
But is your average
My
person
issue
buying a
isn't so
16
much
gig
that these
model than
ROMs
that? I don't-
are taking up so much space, because, I mean, we've been doing ROM dumps, Jerry, on every phone for how many years now, right? And we've watched it increase, every 8-10 months. You're like, oh my God, that's 400 megabytes. Holy crap, this one's 800 megabytes. And the Galaxy S3 was like a gig. And then the GS4 is 2 gig. I've got them sitting here. I can pull the exact numbers if we care. And
that's another thing too. It's not that the files, there's not 8 gigabytes of files themselves,
right?
But the space, and once you expand everything and the reserved portions.
Right. My issue isn't that the ROMs themselves are getting bigger, because, like you say, that's going to happen. I mean, that doesn't mean that the manufacturers shouldn't, try to keep things as lean as they can, but they have features they want to get in these things, right? I mean, if you don't want them, get a Nexus or ROM the thing. But for me, the big deal is no. I don't think you should be allowed to advertise a 16 gigabyte phone. You need to say exactly, here's how much storage you get. Now, the problem is it just gets messy, right? People learn 16, 32, 64, right? Or it used to be 4, 8, whatever.
Actually, that's kind of a point in itself. Do we know if anyone in the US is going to be selling the 32 or 64 gig version?
AT&T, no, I'm thinking the HTC One. I don't think anybody has mentioned it.
Because I know there was supposedly a 64 gig Galaxy S3, which just, in Europe at least, just never arrived last year.
Right.
So
I mean, it's odd. So for me, the issue is
I thought at least
you
one
need to know.
had said 32 was coming, but I can't.
They might
I
have.
think it was
sure
AT&T.
AT&T said it was coming, but no
thought
dates,
so.
no price, no nothing. But we're going to get it.
Yeah. But so the bigger issue right now is that nobody's offering a larger capacity phone,
Right.
and that this thing of 16 gigabytes asterisk actual available storage will vary depending on blah blah blah. No, tell me how much is there. Put it on the damn box, right? Because it's not false advertising. It's just lazy and it's dumb, and it requires people to come to blogs to get that stuff. And your consumers deserve better, I think. There, now I'm pissed off again. Old Phil is back.
What do you think of the argument that it matters less because it's upgradable, the storage space? I mean, that
It's
you
no.
kind of see the argument there, but it's on the other hand,
Because the SD card can't be used in every single same way as the internal.
Yeah, they if they're going to clean up their advertising, they need to clean up around the SD card as well. That's if you think of it as a place to put your movies, your music, and your documents, you're good to go. If you think of it as anything else, maybe not. They're not tightly integrated like the storage we're talking about.
Right.
And they make it sound like it is. You know, they always use that word upgradable, and it's really not.
There's a column in there somewhere. I mean, just do the right thing. It's, just say 16 gigabytes of storage. You have 9 with which to use. Put it right there on the box. It almost goes back to the old 4G thing. Which box was it on? I can't reach the box. So far away. I think it was a Samsung Infuse, right? It said 4G, 4G device. Yep. And then wait, not really 4G. It's
enhanced backhaul.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. It was the old enhanced backhaul clause, and it's just ridiculous. And it's basically giving a middle finger to the people who are buying these devices from you in the first place. And it's not good.
And do you think it's just the fact that they think they're gonna get 16 and it turns out to be 8.5, or do you think it's that they actually would need more than that 8.5?
Well, all right. So there's the question: at what point is that discrepancy okay? Because we've all accepted it for so long, right? Like I have a 256 gigabyte Mac here. I don't have 256 gigabytes of space, and even without the OS, because of the way the math works, it's still not 256. So I mean, there's some wiggle room that everybody accepts. So what's the magic number?
Right. We've reached the tipping point where it starts to get towards half of the storage being unavailable. Right? We've seen it. I think there was it the Surface Pro or one of the Surface tablets that had a similar kind of controversy around it. When you start seeing 8 point whatever available out of 16, that people's minds suddenly jump to, that's half of the storage taken up already, so you're actually getting half of what you're paying for. And that, I think, is what's pissing people off.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like you say, there is some wiggle room. And on earlier phones, when I think the Galaxy S3 had something like 11 or 10 free, no headlines about that. No one really cared. But if you're creeping down towards 8, I don't know. There's no right answer to that, really.
Yeah, I mean, 50% is,
that's pretty bad.
I would definitely say something, but when it's 70, when it's 75, did anybody really raise up? I mean, for us, I think it's always something we've had in our reviews. Yes, you have 16 gigabytes, but here's how much space you actually get. But it needs to be in the box. They just need to be upfront about that stuff.
So the HTC First has 12 gigs free, 12 out of 16, and that's pretty normal, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's pretty lean ROM, right? Because that's just that's really stock with the launcher. Yeah, it's stock with.
You've got some space reserved for updates and stuff. That it's partitioned in such a way that it isn't just the OS. There's some free space that they leave as wiggle room as well.
Yeah. What else? We're starting to get into the weird, silly season again. I was going to wait till next week to talk about Google I/O, unless you guys have anything pressing you want to talk about.
Let's do Google I/O.
Well, they released.
You want to do it now?
And all that.
Yep.
All right.
You've been outvoted.
Fair enough, and we'll talk about it again next week, I'm sure. So they released the sessions this week. Go to Google to see them. And by the way, if you haven't, chances are you haven't been to Google I/O. It's really awesome developer conference. Just so many smart things going on there. And the really cool thing is they stream a lot of it live, and they record almost all of it so you can watch it later. So even if you can't be there, you can still catch all the stuff. And I don't understand half of it, but the snippets I pick up, it's just like, damn, that's cool. Jerry, on the other hand, just goes nuts. It's cute to watch.
I have a good time. I mean, I nerd out big time. I don't know. I mean, my eyes glaze over, and it's like Nirvana.
So what are we expecting? I mean, Jerry, we see a lot of gaming kind of on the Android track, on the Chrome track. I mean, seeing all these stories, Google's getting serious about gaming. I think they've always been kind of serious about gaming. I mean, we've had games in the Google Plus thing for a while, and those kind of fell off. They're just not.
I think these recent gaming stories are more an infrastructure and a service thing than anything that's going to be directly tied to Android. That's just my guess.
I think you're right.
You know, the infrastructure has to come first before we can have apps that use it.
Yeah.
The really interesting thing I might want to see, gaming-wise, is if you imagine, the Nexus Q just completely disappeared last year. That's still supposedly in the works. If they could tie the new stuff they're doing in the software space with a Nexus Q type device to run Android games, I mean, we've all seen what the Ouya people are doing. So maybe that's a possibility. I don't know. It's been very quiet on the Nexus Q the past year. So,
would you like me to talk for
save my play game scores between all these phones I have to play?
Oh my god!
Yeah.
If that's
Would you guys like me to talk for?
I think people would love it.
Would you like me to talk for 10 or 15 minutes about how awesome the Nexus Q is?
I could listen for 10 or 15 minutes.
Anybody?
Let's pull up that animated GIF of you rubbing the Nexus Q.
No, I totally agree. They had a good thing there, and the premise is still there. And I tell you, actually, as I still use it, apps like YouTube still have design features that have been updated since then. So when it says playing in living room, it doesn't say it like in some janky broken way, like you're playing it on an Nexus Q. That's cute. Like it looks like it's supposed to be there. So it would not surprise me at all to still see something come out of that. I really hope it does, because that's the way to do it. You have that secondary device that's actually doing all the legwork, and it's controlled by your phone. Works great. Key lime pie, or whatever the hell it's going to be, the next giant version of Android. Yay? Nay? Alex?
December.
December. I think if we see anything in a couple of weeks, it'll be Jelly Bean maintenance release, or MR, whatever it is, 2.
Yeah.
I think some people are already seeing 4.3 builds rolling around. That wouldn't surprise me at all if that's what eventually showed up. But the major stuff I think is going to be saved for whatever the big new phone is that they release at the end of the year.
It's almost like people forgot that Google has publicly said, we're slowing down our development cycle a little bit. We're not going to do these 2 and 3 major releases a year. Mm. So, I mean, fall, late fall makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
So Nexus 5, it's funny. I've seen all these stories for people positioning the Nexus 5, and so they can say, we've got 20 stories about the Nexus 5 already. I don't
Nexus 5 reviews.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that's happening, guys. LTE Nexus 4, what do you guys think? Yes?
Do what?
An LTE Nexus 4? That's the big rumor now.
So
cool.
We kind of heard last year that they were testing them, and then it just went completely silent. So I think it could probably go either way. If there's, I haven't heard anything specific, but go on.
I'm going to make a gut call, and I'm going to say we see a software update, and the devices from the Play Store have LTE for T-Mobile. I think that's what it's going to be.
Could be.
And now that T-Mobile's finally flipped the switch.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we've been keeping an eye on that FCC listings thing where, if it was going to pop up LTE certification for it, it would. Nothing's happened there yet, but there is still time.
Do you think they will start selling an AT&T LTE version then?
I hope so.
And remember, go back to the
progression, wouldn't it?
Go back to the Nexus 1.
Do what Sony's done and have one. Maybe if this update doesn't happen, maybe have one that is multi-band that will work on.
Right. I mean, that would be
HSPA
different.
Or
that would
LTE
be different hardware.
Either of them.
And that's how they did it with the Nexus 1, right? Remember, initially it was T-Mo. It was T-Mo for 3G, and then you could get AT&T UMTS. God, I don't remember what was before 3G.
Edge,
thank you. It was so long ago. And then, 2-3 months into it, they released one that did AT&T 3G. So I could maybe see that happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sprint has had the last 2 Nexuses. So
6 months
maybe.
late, too.
Yeah, 6 months late. So possibility there maybe for a Sprint version. And we know they were testing one at some point.
If they are going to make an AT&T version, I think you're right, Alex. They're best off just making one that works on both. They already clearly have supply chain problems, so don't complicate it by making 2 models.
I don't know. You would have thought after however many months it is, 8 months or whatever since they launched, they've had a chance to fix the supply chain problems that That
I think so, but I don't want them to just complicate it more by making two different ones. You know, it's not hard to just include both bands in one phone.
True, especially both GSM carriers. I'm
And it's
interested to
less
see if they do
confusing
the
to
same in Europe.
consumers.
Well, the one thing I am almost sure about is if we do see carrier versions of the Nexus 4, we won't see that at I/O. That's not. You look at the versions they've put on Sprint in the past; those were a Sprint thing to announce and to take care of. Google didn't step up front and center with that.
That's true.
And they weren't AOSP devices right off the bat. Google has to distance themselves a little bit, at the beginning for those things. So don't look for a Sprint Nexus 4 to come from Google I/O, even if it's going to come.
What
New
would be
tablet,
cool,
though?
I think they might be able to pull off is if they managed to get a multi-band one for AT&T and T-Mo. If they were able to cram even more bands into it and have a truly global LTE phone, that would be a huge deal for them.
Basically, what this ZL is.
Do the 2 for AT&T and T-Mo and stick the 3 for Europe in there as well.
Yeah,
I would buy that.
Yep.
It's definitely.
What about
possible.
updated tablet? Nexus 7.
Yeah, I think that's probably a given. We've been hearing rumors about that for a while. It makes sense. It's been a year since the Nexus 7. Nexus 8 would be the obvious name. They want to give a slightly bigger screen, less bezel, all very obvious things for a new Nexus tablet, and hopefully still a very affordable price point.
And Kevin O'Quinn and I have spent the last month just pouring through code and poking around and trying to get everything we can think of. I don't have enough to put it on the blog, but we're pretty convinced there's going to be a touchscreen enabled Nexus 4 Chromebook.
Nexus what?
Tegra 4 Chromebook,
Tegra
not
4.
Nexus 4.
Okay. Just checking.
There's the code is there. They're making somebody's not going to all this trouble without actually making a device.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think you're probably right there.
That'll be fun.
What about a watch? Because that was the other rumor, and hearing whispers about that as well. Glass is obviously a big thing, but for the rest of us, for people that aren't in their Explorer program, people who don't want to pay $1,500 for a wearable computer, that maybe something a little bit more affordable might be coming at I/O. What do you think about that?
I think it's spreading
I'm
not a
themselves
watch
a little
guy.
thin at this point.
Oh, no. You see, Andrew, people say that and they have no idea. Right?
I think so.
I mean, no,
Why do you
HTC
think
should
that?
only work on one phone. Samsung needs to not make something. No. We have no idea how many people they have slated for all this stuff, how many it takes. So no, I'm going to poo-poo you for saying that.
I have to think that they've spent this whole time talking about glass, and then
So
They're
I
just
think
gonna
Glass is
shove it
Glass
off to
was
the
a
side
Google
a little bit, or
Glass was a Google
yes.
X thing, wasn't it? If you go back to where it came from, came from Google's crazy skunkworks facility, or whatever you want to call it. What the rumors are suggesting, and what based on stuff we've kind of heard, based on, I think there was an article in the Wall Street Journal, and it was kind of backed up by some other stuff, that this is the Android team that's working on this watch. It's very much an Android product, and it's designed to tie into phones. Whereas Glass is, of course, linked to the phones, but it's more of a standalone thing, more of a Google thing rather than an Android thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out in 2 weeks, guys.
Yep.
Can you believe how close that is? Oh my god. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait.
Yep.
And then I'll come home for like 2 days and go back to Vegas for CTIA the week after that. I don't have any idea what's coming out of that. Verizon has an event, and that's like the only thing going on right now that I know of. I'm sure there'll be some other stuff. What do you guys think about that Motorola phone that's been leaking out? It's leaked out a couple times now, right?
I think
And
there's
most
gonna be
recently
a
with-
whole lot of people disappointed.
Why?
I mean,
Well, why? Because all the way it's been hyped and the way people are talking and all these rumors that other people are saying, it's just that can't happen. And what we're seeing, maybe it's the final version, maybe not the final version, maybe it's not even the same phone.
Mhm.
But what we're seeing looks like, a nice little mid-level phone.
I think Motorola is obviously working on more than one phone, and if you look at what's leaked out so far, a lot of it points towards mid-range stuff. But of course, they're always going to have a high-end thing as well. And the whole X phone project, if you want to call it that, and obviously leaked as it has been, that's got to be about more than just this little mid-range device that they want to sell either in stores or through AT&T or whatever.
I don't know.
I agree. I think it's
that the smart thing, if because Google's in the picture. If we weren't talking about Google owning Motorola, I would have to say you're 100% behind what you're saying. But with Google in the picture, why not a very well-built mid-level phone they can sell on Google Play for $300?
Well, we kind of there was something that we posted on the forums a while back. We were hearing from someone who'd supposedly seen one of these. The really juicy part of that we weren't able to 100% confirm was that supposedly it had the word Nexus on the back. But whether it does or whether it doesn't, there was a lot we were hearing about these removable back covers, the fact that it was meant to be a really good mid-level device that would sell for a low price point in the US, and it would be really a mass market device. So I think a lot of what you're saying is definitely in the picture, whether it's marketed as an X phone, whether it's marketed as a Nexus, whether it's primarily Google or whether it's primarily Motorola.
And I mean, this is not a new thing. Nokia's been doing it for a while. Project Shield's doing it, with the different custom covers. So we'll see. I agree. I think it's just been way overhyped, and because it's made by Motorola now, I think anything that made by Motorola is going to have this, oh my God, is it a Nexus? Is it a whatever scrutiny? And it's just kind of ridiculous. That's what I think.
We're judging the hype of this multi-phone project based on having still next to no real information about any of the phones.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We've just got, frankly, stupid rumors. A lot of them are really stupid.
Jerry said it, folks. Jerry at AndroidCentral.com. And I agree with him. All right. Why don't we start wrapping it up? I got a handful of voicemails, actually, I want us to go through. We got a bunch. We got 6, and they are all very, very good. And by the way, if you want to send one to us, the best way you can do it, in fact, we might not even give out the phone number anymore. What do you guys think about that? What if we stop using the
quality voicemails?
The voicemail, yeah.
Let's do that.
The quality's pretty bad. All right, so we're not even going to give out the phone number anymore. If you want to send us a voicemail, do it. Record it. You can even record it on your phone. That works surprisingly well. And then email it to us at podcast@androidcentral.com. So, Renee, if you are ready, why don't we start with Ben?
I am ready, but the voicemail are not producing any sound. Give me 2 minutes. Vamp, Phil, vamp.
Vamp. Hello, my honey. Hello, what? I don't know. Wow. So, I don't know. I don't really want to talk about anything else. The podcast is already getting long. Should we tell jokes? Knock, knock.
Who's there?
I don't know. That's all I had. All right. Well, no, here's what we're going to do in the meantime. I was going to do it at the end. We'll do it right now. Let's give out some shirts. Haven't done that in a while.
Let's do that.
There's a good idea. So, Jerry, can I have him email you and make you deal with this?
Yes, I have others that I'm in the middle of anyway, so sure.
Cool. All right. Well, in that case, I'll let you get, you pick. You run. What should people email you in the subject line?
Shirt. Wouldn't that be a smart thing?
All right. So email Jerry at androidcentral.com with the words shirt in the subject line, and 5 of you will win one. This awesome Android Central t-shirt. Are they doing it? Have they started?
Yes, they have started.
Cool. Beard. Yeah, it should have been beard.
Good Lord. We were worried about not enough people being able to listen live because it's in the middle of the day. We were wrong.
I wasn't worried. Not at all. How you doing there, Renee?
I got a workaround ready.
Okay. What, Alex?
No, I'm just looking at the numbers.
Oh.
Who do you want
All
first,
right.
Phil?
Well, if Renee is ready, so let's start with Ben's voicemail.
I don't have a Ben. I have an Eric, a Jeff, a Jeffrey, a Mel, and a Robert.
Didn't give you Ben? Let's see. I mean, as long as we're waiting. I see Ben. It's not a wave. Sitting there in your folder.
It's not
VM-bin.
Oh, it's a 3GP. Sorry.
Oh, good Lord, stop mailing me. I can pick 5 out of this.
All right. Voicemail time. Let's
Do the
start
next one,
with
Phil. I'm getting
Ben.
an error.
All right. Let's start with Eric.
Hey guys, this is Eric from St. Louis. Just calling. I had a question about my wife's Nexus 4. I was hoping you guys could help me out with. I've got her set up on Straight Talk through AT&T, and I'm having a world of a time trying to get the correct APN settings for her text messages and MMS messages to actually work consistently and properly. That's about the only thing she uses on a smartphone more than anything, and I really want to get it working. She's been getting kind of frustrated, and I would hate for her to go try to get a different phone that's not Android that might just work. So if you guys could point me in the right direction, I've tried some different things through online forums, but I'm just not having any luck. So I was hoping maybe one of you has a Nexus 4 on Straight Talk with AT&T, with an AT&T SIM, and maybe you could share the settings that you're using. Other than that, that's all I was really calling about. Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work, and I just love the podcast. Listen every week.
Both
there's
Jerry,
nothing
more.
more.
And Phil has used Straight Talk AT&T as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing more you should need to do than go to the Straight Talk website, and in the support section, there's 2 settings. One's for T-Mobile, although are they still using T-Mobile? I don't remember. One for T-Mobile and one for AT&T, and then you just input them in right then. So there's, as far as I know, no like secret APN to use that's better or anything. You just put it in and it works. Now, the thing you do need to remember to do, if you take the SIM card out, if you swap in a different one, when you first put it back in, it's going to say it's going to try to automatically connect to T-Mobile, and I'm thinking how it works on my T-Mobile one, so I'm not sure if AT&T is the same way. So you need to swap it back over to the Straight Talk APN instead of the one it thinks it's supposed to be using. But otherwise, it's really straightforward. So give that a shot. If you're missing the settings, they should be there on Straight Talk's website.
And just to be able to get consistent texts and calls and everything, you shouldn't need anything special other than on their Straight Talk SIM website, they have a phone programming area, and make sure you're choosing the correct one, the AT&T one, and you should be able to just plug in everything and double check and hit save, do a reboot, and it should be there.
Yep. Okay, next, let's go to, how about, it's either Jet or Jeff. I'm not sure which. Renee, he's listed as the first Jeff.
Jack calling from the D.C. area. I was calling because I had a question. I currently using a Droid 4 and have multiple issues with it rebooting, had the device replaced, and through my work, I'm given the option to upgrade to either the Spectrum 2 or the Motorola, the M. I'm not sure, the Razr M. I'm trying to figure out with the Razr M, or the Spectrum 2 seems to have a better screen. I heard it's getting Jelly Bean soon. And I'm just wondering, why would someone pick the Razr M over the Spectrum 2? Just give me your thoughts on that. All right.
I think Motorola is going to probably get better long-term support at this point. Just look at what they've done in the past 6 months for all their older phones. I mean, they're all getting updated, quicker than they used to be, right?
Yeah, the main things with the Razr M, I think you would want to watch out for the screen is QHD and Pentile AMOLED. So it's probably not as good as what you would get on the Spectrum. I'm not sure exactly what the Spectrum
One of those
has.
things to look at and see if it bothers you first.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Get one in store and take a look at that. And the camera, apparently, I think in our review we called that out as being kind of weak on the Razr M.
Cool. All right, let's go to, or was that Chip maybe? I couldn't quite hear. I'm sorry. Again, that's why we want you to start recording them and sending them in. Now we have Jeffrey TZ.
Hi, this message is for the Android Central podcast. Hi, guys. This is Jeffrey TZ in Chicago. And, hey, I got to tell you, I love my Nexus 4. I love Android, but I am so done with this Bluetooth stack in 4.2.2. It's a bit of a rant. It's just insane how bad it is, and I don't understand why Google hasn't fixed it. I constantly have problems where when I try to pause on the lock screen when I'm listening to a podcast using my Bluetooth headset, the phone sometimes will let me unpause it again. Sometimes it won't. If I go into dog catcher, it'll lock up. If I have my Bluetooth headset connected and I try to connect my Pebble or my MetaWatch or my Strata, one or the other will lock up. Sometimes the phone will lock up. I have to completely reboot. If I use my S9 headphones from Motorola, I get the same thing. So it's definitely the Bluetooth stack. And when you go through the Android troubleshooting things on Google, you see some of this stuff. So I just don't understand why it's not fixed. And one of the reasons I'm excited to get my HTC One today, or the Developer's Edition, is because it's going back to 412, because I didn't have any problems at all with Bluetooth on that. So, Jerry, branch this thing, fix it, do something. Seriously, though, I'm curious what you think. Why is Google on this? Are they working on it? Because it's been going on since 422 came out, and I'm not the only one. Thanks, guys. Love the podcast. Keep up the good work.
Thanks to Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry.
Why haven't you been working on this?
I've been busy doing other. I don't know.
Getting shirts.
I got nothing.
So there's the legit question: is there anything you can do if you get? Because we've all had phones that have had just crappy Bluetooth stacks. In fact, the one of the fixes in the UK update for that HTC One was Bluetooth, and I actually had a Bluetooth device that it would connect to, but it was just horrible. It was popping and scratching and cutting in and out, and they've apparently fixed that. So, is there anything we as users can do, or do you just have to? Are we at the mercy of the manufacturers for Bluetooth?
You've got the people making headsets using features and versions that Google can't use for a Nexus device. Anytime you use the word Nexus, you always have to remember distribution licenses are everything.
By the way, actually stop right there. That is, I've seen 2 stories in the past week saying that that HTC has been able to do something that Google could not when it released an LTE unlocked device. Right? It's not that Google can't. It's not that it's physically impossible for Google to do that. But with Nexus devices that are submitting code upstream is not the right metaphor here, Jerry. But you know what I'm saying,
right? I can't fathom how much work was involved between Google and Verizon to get the Verizon Galaxy Nexus back into AOSP so they could redistribute the binary stuff.
Right.
What we're talking about is if I'm Samsung and I write radio, especially for Verizon, Google's just not allowed just to pass that out.
Right.
It's not. You can't really hack it. It's not open source. But that's mine, and I've licensed it out only to Verizon. Google's not allowed just to give it to everybody.
And that's what both of these stories ignored. And
right.
And that makes all the difference in the world. So whatever. Anyway, sorry.
The Bluetooth stack is the same way. HTC can pay whoever they want and include, things in the Bluetooth stack because they're not redistributing it. There's an RUU out there for the Developer Edition, which is kind of interesting. Now I'm going to have to look at the Bluetooth for it. But other than that, this is part of the reason why HTC doesn't want their RUUs to be redistributed.
Right.
They're not allowed to just give these files to anybody. Even if you already bought them on the phone you bought, they're not allowed to give you a second copy.
It's software.
Yes, that's Google. They can't do that on their AOSP device. They could build a phone and not redistribute the binaries and put whatever they wanted on it. But that's not what we want them to do.
Right. Very good explanation.
I'm just glad I don't have to worry about that on a day-to-day basis. the guys that, I bet that's just a good way to pull all your hair out.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Mel.
This is Robert from the Android Central Podcast. Quick question. I'd like to have an explanation as to why phones deteriorate in quality. And what I mean is, I have an S2. Day one, when I had it, it was great. Fast. but I'm using it like it's supposed to. I haven't hacked it or anything. And it's egregiously slow. It slows down. It freezes. It's choppy. The battery life is terrible. So I'd like somebody to explain to me a technical reason for why these phones deteriorate. And this is not the first one I've had that does this. And they coincidentally deteriorate before my 2-year contract's up too. I appreciate it. Thanks.
So when I said let's go to Mel, I actually meant let's go to Robert. Jerry, Bitrot, or anybody. I keep going to Jerry. He doesn't know all the technical stuff. Bitrot. I mean, do we get Bitrot on phones like we do on computers, or no? Anybody?
I don't think it's. I mean,
much. Phones are computers, right? So
there's a little bit of that, bit rot, as you've heard, like with Windows computers, so to speak. But if you were using the phone literally the exact same way, with the same applications that required the same amount of resources before, you probably wouldn't see such a dramatic slowdown. But applications have started to be more demanding in the last 2 years, and your phone has not gotten more powerful.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of it that way. I mean, look at what's that weather app that just got a huge update the other day?
Weather Bug?
The Weather Channel, I think. Weather Bug, that's it. It uses so much more resources than it did the first time I downloaded it 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
If I've been using that app for 2 years, it's going to need a lot more beef to run it than it did the first time I tried it.
And he mentioned battery life also. That may just be, at this point, your battery has just had a lot of cycles on it in 2 years. Right. That's part of that too.
Yep.
The battery is probably the most likely component that's going to fail, or at least you're going to see reduced performance out of it after the average amount of charges you would get in a 2-year contract.
And I was just all I could do not to answer when Phil said, "Let's ask somebody other than Jerry." Yes, the pit rod is there. It's leaving behind stuff. Yes, my God, 2 years, reset your phone.
Yeah.
Don't even fight with it. Just factory reset it.
If you haven't done a factory reset in 2 years, it might be the way to go.
All right, now let's try to go to Mel.
That was Mel.
That was Mel?
Robert left.
All right. Well, then try the one that says Robert.
This is Robert from the Android Central podcast.
Nope, never mind.
Oh, we just did that.
Well, how about Ben? Can we do Ben now?
No, Ben's
Can you
not
tell
working.
it's been a couple
Mel
weeks?
again. No, both Mel and Robert are Robert.
All right, well, then we're done with voicemails. That was awesome. Yeah. Okay, well, in that case, I guess we're done. I'm playing the outro music in my head, even though I can't hear it yet. I'll put it in later. Never mind. Martonic, wrap us up.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's fine. So if you'd like to get a hold of us, you can email us at podcast@androidcentral.com, or, of course, find us on Google+. And I'm some crazy long string of numbers, and so is Alex, and so is Jerry. But Phil...
Hey, you know what mine is?
Plus Phil Nickinson.
That's right.
And
you know why?
I believe we're also plus Android Central. We should have that as well. And we also have a new revamped YouTube channel that you should go look at. With,
yes, we do.
I believe Phil will talk to you when you go to the YouTube channel now.
Only if you're not subscribed. That's kind of like it's blackmail or extortion or something. Yeah. So if you subscribe, you won't hear me anymore.
Exactly. To get rid of Phil, subscribe.
Exactly.
And then,
hey, you know what else we got out there now? Sort of.
We interact with some people on Twitter too, but Google Plus is the main place to go. And of course, we're as always every week brought to you by shopandroid.com. Call 888-468-6158. And if you want to leave us a voicemail, email the voicemail to us. We do not want you to call us anymore.
That's right. So don't even read that line.
I'm not going.
Good job, Andrew. Kind of put him on the spot there. Hey, you know what else we got out there? If you haven't seen it in the forums, we are open beta testing our new app. It's getting there. So we still got stuff we're fixing. We still have features we're putting in. But the really cool thing is you can log in and comment and post in the forums. You can comment on the blog post. You can download wallpapers too, by the way, which is really cool. Yeah, so a lot of you can listen to the podcast directly from the app now, which is really cool. So go give that a shot if you haven't yet. We'll put it up in Google Play eventually. We're getting there, but we still got some stuff we want to work out. So keep that in mind as you use it. I know we tend to use the word beta like it doesn't mean anything anymore, but it does. So we're getting there. So hats off to Neil, the developer, on that. What else is going on? So so next week we'll have a normal podcast again Friday afternoon, and then after that it'll start getting crazy between Google I/O and CTIA. So keep an ear out for when and where you can find us. So Jerry, Alex, Andrew, thank you guys. Everybody in the chat room, thank you. I think that went.
This is going on.
All right, everybody.
Jerry's losing his mind.
We will see you all next week.
Later.
See you guys
later on.